Okay, so today's tomato review is going to be on the Big Zack tomato. Okay, so let's take a closer look. I didn't cut this one in half because this is the only Big Zack that I got right now. I got a couple smaller ones. This one had some deformations on the side. And not a big deal, but I just can't eat that half of the tomato. And so it is what it is. So let's cut it in half and see what it looks like. So here's what it looks like on the inside. And you can see it has multiple chambers all the way around. The seeds are firmly attached to the rind, which is a good sign. In other words, this tomato is generally not going to be one of those chalky tomatoes. So say 5 out of 10 you're going to get are going to be chalky and the other 5 will be good. It's not going to be like that. So you're generally going to have a good flavor on this tomato. Now this tomato is supposedly well known for making 1 to 5 pound tomatoes. You really got to have good soil, guys, if you want a 5 pound tomato. And you're really going to have to put a lot into that plant and the soil, really, to get this to that kind of weight. You're not going to get record tomatoes out of any tomato if the soil is just not right. You got to get the soil right. So I'm lucky to even get this year with all the tomato wilt and everything that I was getting. I'm surprised I even got this. But this is a good tomato. I have grown it before. Yeah, I have seen 1.5 pounders come out of it, but no record breakers. But this is the tomato, one of the tomatoes that's used to break records for tomato contests and things. This is one of the main brands that they like to use. So we're just going to cut that off on the bottom. Make sure we get all that ink off. And we're going to give that a nice taste test. Now, I do see some wilding in the rind, and I see some wilding throughout the middle. And you can see the middle is very meaty in the middle, so that's a very good sign of a good sauce tomato, good slicer tomato. It's got those good attributes to a good tomato. I can look at this right now and probably going to get a pretty good review just looking at it based on what I can see. Other than the deformity, but that's no big deal. I mean, you know, you're going to get that with tomatoes from time to time anyway. That kind of a thing will happen when the flower gets damaged some way. It could be an insect. It could just be you were picking at it or something, or it could be anything. The sunlight burned part of it. It could be anything. So that usually happens because of a damaged flower. And I do have insects that are damaging my flowers, so that's not a good thing. But anyway, what else about this tomato? Now, I don't know about the skins, but let's give it a bite. I'm dying to try this. Wow, it's a pretty good tomato. I would say probably 25% on the sweetness, maybe 28% or something on the tangy, just slightly tangier. It's a nice, delicious type of a tangy flavor. It really carries that tomato flavor to the back of your taste buds after you know, the aftertaste that comes in. Sweetness to me was a little bit low. Not enough for me not to like the tomato, but it was a little low this year. And I am also sensing a lot of wateriness. Very, very watery tomato. This would probably make an excellent tomato sauce. Another thing I've noticed about this tomato is the pulp part is very soft. It could be that it's very ripe. This tomato has been sitting on this table for about several days, and I'm trying to get to doing these tomato reviews. It's just very hard to sit down and consume this many tomatoes all at once, or even day by day. After a while, you just don't want to eat tomatoes for a while, so you take a break. But the problem is you can't take a break because you got tomatoes waiting to be reviewed, and if you don't, the fruit flies come in and they'll do all sorts of damage. So this has been sitting out for a few days, so it's really ripe. Believe me when I tell you, this tomato is right about at that point where you basically want to just squeeze it right into a pot, squeeze it right out of the skin, start making your sauce with it. This thing is basically ready to go. But Let me take another bite. My palate's now adjusted. It's got a very nice taste. It's very well balanced. A little bit on the watery side. Not a big deal, but it's a little watery. And like I said, that could partly be because I let this sit out for a very long time. If you pick it and you use it within the same day or maybe the next day, you got it in the fridge, you want to use it, it'll probably be not as watery. But if you let them really ripen, these really start to get really watery. The meat part of it gets really soft like watermelon, and it's just, as soon as you eat it, it melts in your mouth. So we're up at that point basically. But this is a pretty good tomato. I wouldn't call it an award winner, though some people have won contests using Big Zac for the largest tomatoes or the heaviest tomatoes. So some people have won some contests with this tomato. But again, you're going to have to really work on your soil. You're going to have to work on your growing environment, your tomato technique. You're going to have to work on, how to get the best growth out of your tomatoes. And a lot of that has to do with controlling the diseases in your soils. And if you can keep that blight down all the way to its minimum, to the point where the tomatoes already developed, ripened on the vine, and then blight starts coming in, you don't care about it at that point. It's just when it comes in early, the early blight comes in, it really puts a really hard strain on the plant. Plant really don't want to focus on the tomato anymore because it's focusing on killing the disease. And you end up with tomatoes that are subpar. But even still, this tomato is still a good tomato. I would definitely recommend this tomato to anybody who's looking to grow like record tomatoes or record size tomatoes. You want to get into the 1 to 5 pound tomatoes. This is probably the tomato to use for that. A lot of other people swear by it. So anyway, oh yeah, the skins were a little bit tough on it, but again, it's really ripe. So if I just squeeze that whole thing, it'll just come out in one shot. Skins will be left behind. That tends to happen when tomatoes really ripen up a lot. The inside gets soft, the skins get very leathery, so that will happen. But other than that, it's a good tomato. I'm going to rate this tomato. I'm going to rate this out of 2 this year, and part of that reason is that the tomato gave me, that kind of an effect, and it's a little on the watery side. If it wasn't for those couple things, I probably would throw this in the #1 category. It really is a delicious tomato. Again, I recommend buying this tomato if you're interested in growing extra large tomatoes. This is the one to use for that. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care now.